Okay. Hello. Let's see if we got everything working right today. Thought I'd try a little bit early since I was so late last time. Get chat fired up here. You let me know if you can hear me. Justin, thank you for joining us. Do a little. Okay, good. Yeah, because last time when I did the reset and everything, it ended up being the microphone in the phone and not my headset. So the audio for the last one is definitely not what it could be. Okay, since I'm a minute early, let's settle in. What do we have here today? Tobias Ripper, welcome. Bill Richards. Is that PSS? Wow, glasses are bad even when reading. Welcome, Andrew W. Thanks for joining us. Vans 1208. Duncan Yo-Yo, welcome back. Scott Bogfoot, howdy. Sayers, welcome back. Jangles, John Whistler. Nick McMinn, thank you. Hope your day is going well too. Tim Baker. Turbo Tony. Jose, welcome. Gareth. Khan. Mark, our Arizona advocate. Good morning. Okay, get a little couple announcements here. Sayers, 2 weeks mandatory holidays announced in Kuwait. Yeah, I think also F1 in Bahrain. Bahrain next week. Said, no audience for the second F1 Formula One race, Grand Prix race. It's just going to be TV only. Tech Guy Brian, welcome. There's a tiny bit of static peaks on the mic now and then. Don't worry too much about it now. It's probably its noise reduction algorithm or something cutting in and out, but hopefully it's not too bad. Carl, you're welcome. Hopefully it's a useful topic. Yeah, it's a real oh, yeah, you can go with like $250 AirPods that may or may not be any better. I hear the voice isn't that great. Great for playing music, but not great for the voice. This is probably the best quality for voice, but that doesn't mean, it's going to be trouble-free over the air. I would use the earbuds, but because of my hands and stuff I may grab, I'm constantly snagging it and ripping. But if this just ends up being kind of a staticky, weird problem where it's not consistent, or like the one time where I forgot to charge it, then I'll just have to go back to the earbuds where the quality is good, but I just have to watch out with the hands and what I'm doing. Justin, actually, I thought I went this way. The better way I thought is this way to get my vape out of the way. I don't remember which way I actually blew it. Yeah, it's at my age, it's the little victories, Justin, not having the vapor all come back into view. 772 Mini Trucker, what's up? Joe Bertoni, that's not true, but thank you. Actually, how am I for reflections? Uncomfortably bad. On uncomfortably good. Okay, that sounds about the same. Oh, okay. Thanks, Justin. And thanks for helping out today with the moderating. Chris Robinson, want to tell you that I love the Power Hour, but I'll have to catch most of this on the replay, unfortunately. Keep up the awesome shows. Thank you, sir. Yeah, it's boy, it's hard to find a good time at all. And this lunchtime thing is hard for me. This is getting harder and harder to do each one. John Wisser will have trade-offs for convenience. Yep. Yep. Okay. Let's give everyone some time to come in and vape heads, glasses on the head, because if I do the glasses in normally, you catch the reflections here of the light, and they may come in and out as I'm talking, doing anything. Where if I tilt up, then it's a lot harder to catch the glasses. It goes perfectly with my flat brim hat. Brett Jordan, thanks for joining us, and thank you for your kind words. Justin, okay, awesome. Well, I actually vape heads. It was pretty selfish of me actually. I just don't like people going, oh, I can't see this, and I'm blinded by the reflections, and da 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 da. It's just kind of a production value thing, even though it's tiny. My production value is just so low otherwise. I have the iPhone up here, a 13-watt fluorescent light bouncing off the wall. If this was well, if I had any money, I would say, get an LED panel and start some, maybe setting things up, get a dedicated camera. I don't know if I can actually stream live higher than 720p, no matter what I have, because this records in 1080, but it only ends up being 720 once they get through with it. Austin P, thank you, sir, very much. And is that? Oh. Took me a while to figure out the drop the mic thing. Thank you very much for the super chat. That's appreciated. That will support the testing. All right. Bill Richard, thank you, sir. Yeah, there's a small group of people like that who are, aren't just looking to be entertained, though I try to be mildly entertaining, but, just looking for information and to not have a really terrible time. Um, Maybe learning it. Stian, thanks for joining us and welcome. That's what I meant to say, but combined it. Uh, Serge, please share what's your mech setup. Mech setup. Oh, I think it's going to be one of those days. Coil types, ohm, battery use for cloud chasing. Well, you can use a 10 amp battery for cloud chasing with the right build. We'll go into what I'm making today. I've got the clutch with a 30T, Samsung 30T inside with dual fuse Claptons coming in at about 0.17. Well, it depends what you read it on, 0.14 to 0.17, so it heats up to about 0.17 to 0.21. I like the dual fuse Claptons. I'm not, one who goes trying a whole bunch of different wire types, though I do have some of Lumi's braid that I got a coil and see what those are like. They're beautiful. I'll have to post a picture of that on Instagram. And then also earlier, I was using a Dreamer with the Iconic and enjoying that. So today was an all mech day. That also with the Samsung 30T. Molicell P42A is also great if you're at lower power levels. The Samsung 40T can also be used. Um, John Wilson, get one of them vaping Fagan cameras. He doesn't use them. Laughing out loud. Tobias Ripper, I have a 26650 Aspire that died out of nowhere, no shorts, not storage discharge or overcharge, didn't smell any goo either, just went to zero. Enlighten us. I have no idea why it failed. Um, if it's 0 volts, to me, that means the CID, the current interrupt device, essentially the mechanical fuse, tripped inside. And that can happen from a shock. It can happen from localized heating because they do spot wells. There's a spiral roll of stuff here, and then there's a metal tab spot welded to the top of the battery and a metal tab spot welded to the bottom of the battery. Now, those spot welds can heat. There can be localized heating at them, which can cause metal fatigue, and they let go, or the tab itself under high loads can actually snap. Something like that may have caused heating that triggered the CID or was mechanical. Uh, Vibrations and drops over time led to it, but it's a lot of, well, maybe this, it might be that. There's really no smoking gun for me to point to, other than if it's 0 volts, instead of just terrible, terrible performance, which would be a different type of protection circuit that's in some low current batteries. It sounds like the CID tripped, but I don't know what might have caused it. If it's the Aspire 26650, then that would be a Young Delis cell, one of the China factories, and they make some good cells, but the consistency, cell to cell consistency isn't as good as the ones from well, there are no 26650s from Samsung, Sony, LG, Panasonic, Sanyo, etc. None of the big manufacturers make 26650s anymore. So maybe there was an inconsistency in manufacture, and that led to an early failure. 772 Mini Trucker, did you happen to see Samsung's announcement of the solid-state lithium metal battery tech? No, but I've heard about Some of this coming to market. I thought maybe actually this year some of it was coming, if not next year. A lot of it's going to be, seeing what they actually come up with. If they have a solid state battery, whether it's ratings, we're not going to get our hands on them for the longest time. I'm not even sure it's going to be a round cell. Yeah, I think it might be flat or prismatic. Prismatic being the flat pouches, but in a hard plastic case. Think of the older cell phone batteries that you can click in and out. That would be a prismatic form factor. But Justin, he said he did drop the Aspire. Well, I didn't know if it would dropped to 0 volts or whether it was physically dropped and result ended up at 0 volts. Let's talk acronyms. So we see these all the time. IMR, INR, and ICR, which means I'm no longer looking at chat. So if you have questions, hold off for a little bit. Uh, a lot of people are very worried about some of them. A lot of people say, one of them might be like safe, and we should always look for that. What are these, and is any of this true? And the first part is again, what the heck is IMR, INR, and ICR? They are not battery chemistries. They are often used that way, and they're associated with certain battery chemistries. But some of these acronyms can be used for more than one chemistry, so we can't call them a chemistry. What they are is number one, they're a model number prefix for batteries. And like the Samsung here, and I'm hoping this will end up going into focus. If not, if it's still readable, up in the top, INR 18650-25R. So there's the INR model number prefix. It's also an International Battery Type Designator acronym. And the I means lithium ion. It can also be L for lithium metal, which this refers to the negative part of the battery. For all our batteries, it's lithium ion, so all our acronyms start with I. The middle letter talks about the metal that's used in the positive part of the battery. So M for manganese, N for nickel, C for cobalt. And then the R is just for round. That they made easy. So the IEC, International Electrotechnical Commission, has battery designators that manufacturers can put in their data sheets or on the battery itself, and you get something like the Murata, which down here you can see what's the exact wording that they use? The INR 19-66. And the 19 is the diameter, and the 66 is the length. Absolute maximum allowed. 18650 is allowed to be up to 19 by 66 millimeters. So that's what these acronyms are for. And just to primarily point to the predominant metal that's in one part and what is, lithium metal or something else used to hold lithium ions in the negative part. They're not actual battery chemistry, so they can be associated with them, which what makes it confusing and what led to some of the confusion now. So let's go through the three that are out there. IMR, lithium ion, M for manganese, R for round. This is often quoted as being the safest chemistry. Now, that's not true. IFR, F for ferrous, is going to be the safest of the lithium-ion chemistries that are available. I think I'm just going to look over the glasses here, do the grandpa thing, because through it's just I can barely see the phone. I can see the text, my notes, but I can't see anything. We'll try this. Um, it's one of the safer designators, but IFR is going to be the safest, and that's lithium ferrous phosphate or LiFePO4. But we don't use those batteries, lithium-ion batteries, because they're at a lower voltage. Well, there are some vapors in Germany who stack them, but you get about 5 volts out of them. They're just too low voltage to be used in most regulated mods. Some mods you can set to go to a lower voltage. So for the ones that we use, IMR, INR, ICR, IMR is the least volatile. It's not safe. It's just, it can be safer. It's harder to send into thermal runaway than the others. Its reactions in thermal runaway, if you accidentally short circuit or there's an internal defect, aren't as violent. So for that, okay, there's something to be said. Hey, that's a safer chemistry. But the thing is, we haven't been using any batteries that would properly use the IMR model number prefix or designator for years. And the reason is there's a trade-off for that less volatility. And when you think of it, less volatility, well, that probably means maybe less available energy. Less available energy, lower performance. And that's the thing. It's a safer chemistry, but it's lower performance. This was state of the art, you know, 2013, 2014, something like that. But it's been surpassed now by higher performance chemistries. Now, how to word this? The problem with IMR as an acronym now is that a lot of China rewrappers are just using IMR on the battery, even though it's not using this all manganese, the M, all manganese metal positive part, or none of them are all metals. It's metal oxides, rusted metals, but it's not just manganese in the part. And the chemistry that I'm referring to for this is lithium manganese oxide, LMO. You don't need to know that at all, but that's what you have to use to get this IMR designator. And none of the batteries we vape with use that chemistry anymore because the performance just isn't high enough. You could get, some great 10 amp batteries or something like that, but it's just not something they're using. You can use other chemistries on it. But China is still using it as generic thing. Or they're using it because, they put IMR and go off that reputation for like, oh, hey, this is a safer battery or even a safe battery. No, no. Almost all the batteries we use and that China is called IMR are actually using the chemistries associated with the IN for nickel designators or model number prefixes. So that becomes a problem there with IMR. So that's the one end. The other end is the one people think is dangerous. ICR, and that C is for cobalt. Cobalt gives you performance, but it comes at the price of volatility. And you can see that most clearly with lipos. Lipos are all cobalt, that's the only metal in the positive part of the battery, a metal oxide. Now, they mix with other little ingredients, but it's the only metal. So with lipos, you can get very low internal resistance, very high performance for a particular size. This is why lipos are used in our tablets, our cell phones, our laptops. Time for drinking a vape. Crash. I can take a little peek here too. Oh, okay, Justin, thank you very much. John Wisser, would LiFePO4 be safer because a lower voltage in turn make lower current levels as far as Ohm's law? Yes, but a lot of people wouldn't operate at lower current levels because they still want the same power they got with other cells. If you're a mouth to lung vapor, so on and so forth. But the thing is, the safety comes at what happens if the wrap is damaged, what happens if there's an internal defect, or what happens when it goes in the thermal runaway. A lithium-ion battery used at lower current levels could be argued as being safer because you're nowhere near its rating anymore. So, but a lot of it is what happens in terms of an accident, and that's where the LiFePO4 is great because the reaction is a lot slower, a lot lower temperature, and you have to get it a lot hotter before there's a reaction. And we'll jump back to Tobai. Hey, thanks for joining us. Saibi, welcome. James Potts, welcome. Mike Berg, dude. So the ICR is used for lipos. And for that, people can go, oh, well, that's dangerous because lipos are dangerous. But they're not. It is a more volatile chemistry. You can get into trouble at a lower temperature, still above the boiling point of water, but at a lower temperature. The reaction in thermal runaway is more violent, considerably more violent than lithium ferrous phosphate cells. And a lot of people have seen the videos of lipos, just amazing balls of flame and jets of molten material coming out of those things. So it's got this reputation. And for lipos, yes, you do. Well, with all batteries, you have to be careful, but just never misuse or mishandle them. And it's not this inherently dangerous set of chemistries. Problem is, ICR is also used for battery chemistries that have some cobalt in them, but aren't all cobalt. Batteries that we would consider safe or safer, like the LG HE2 or HE4 that have been around for years. They're great performance back in 2014 or something like that. Now it's just an average 20 amp battery, like the 25R. Just it's an average performing battery. They're much better, newer technologies out there. The model number for the HE4 is ICR 18650-HE4. Well, it's not a LiPo. It just has some cobalt in the positive part of its battery. So we can't use ICR just to say, oh, well, that's dangerous. Then we've got what's in the middle, INR, which is almost all the batteries we use, except for like the Home Tech Sherlock Home battery. That is a LiPo. So don't misuse it, don't mishandle it. But that's the advice I give for all batteries. INR, N for nickel. That is something, you've got the manganese, all manganese at one end, all cobalt at the other, IMR, INR. In the middle, you add some nickel into things, nickel, cobalt, aluminum, nickel, manganese, cobalt. These are the hybrid chemistry cells that almost everything that we use. And why they're so popular is because it's in between all manganese and all cobalt. It's in between the safety of this and the performance of the all cobalt ones. So we call them hybrid cells. And that's where almost all of them, all the chemistries that we use, except for vaping in the round cells, that's what we use. And they're a good compromise between performance and let's call it safety. We don't have unsafe and safe, but it's a compromise between the levels of safety and performance that we do have here. Now, it's still something where you have to watch out. It's still the same precautions for INR that you would have for IC and all of them. That's going to be for all the batteries. But you can see that IMR, INR, and ICR, because of this confusion mix of associations, aren't things that we can just look at on their own. And we can't assign them terms like dangerous or safe. IMR is a designator isn't used for any of the batteries or vapors anymore. So that we can throw away. ICR can point to lipos, but it can point to non-lipos that just happen to have some C as part of the battery, cobalt. So we can kind of toss that out. And then there's 99% of the batteries we use that are associated with the INR designator or model number prefix. So since it's 99% of the batteries, we're really not thinking about it anyway. So throw out the INR. So do we need to worry about IMR, INR, ICR? No. If you really don't want to use lipos, you're just like, no. For pouch cells, it's easy. Don't use pouch cells. I only know one round lipo that is available loose, and that's the Sherlock Holmes. All the rest are going to be INR related chemistries. Um, you really don't have to think about it much. So we really don't have to worry about these prefixes. And you'll find lots of stuff online from years ago that talk about, look for IMR or, avoid ICR. But look at the dates when these were posted. And just remember that this, particularly in the battery field, things change over the years. 1 year later can be a big difference. 5 years later, yeah, you can't assume anything that you're reading is going to be there. Problem is, the stuff that comes up in a lot of the search engine lists are the popular links, and those are the ones that have been around for years, and those are the sites and the articles that has this older information. So just take it with a grain of salt, ask questions, don't give absolutes in terms of safe or unsafe or things like that until you look at what's going on. But right now, state of the market as it is, we really don't have to worry about it unless you don't want lipos. Then if you see ICR, maybe find out, oh, are they really talking about a lipo, or is it just something with cobalt in the chemistry? Crash, boom, bam. Tobai, yep, nothing to do with batteries is, quote, safe, unquote. Tobai uses lipos for his drones. I agree. Yeah. And one nice thing about lipos, the pouch lipos, is that you don't have the weight of a metal can and the more volumetrically efficient. Those pouches stack up in all dimensions much better than round cells with all the air spaces. If you make a pack out of round cells, you've got a lot of airspace there. That's good for cooling, but it's not good when you've got a drone, and every gram of weight is really, really important. So for that, the pouch lipos with their low internal resistance, their high performance is a better choice as opposed to the heavier, though slightly safer. You're not putting a drone up to your face. You don't have to worry as much about safety. Well, not in terms of safety. You don't want a volatile cell burning up the drone, but you're not as worried about much about safety, and you're willing to trade some of that off for the performance so the thing can get off the ground. Okay, and take that away. Hey, I didn't yap the whole half hour. Oh, all right. I'm just laying the batteries down because I keep knocking them over. Stay down. Just easier that way. John Whistler asks, would a LiPo round cell be a better performer than the 20S and 30T? Depends on the battery. There can be some crappy performing low current rated LiPos, or they could make it, very low internal resistance. I would suspect, you're constrained by the shape and size. I don't think you're going to see any kind of fundamental difference for that low internal resistance. The thing about the pouch cells is you can have very wide tabs, connecting the tabs up at the top can stay wide going all the way through the battery, makes for very low internal resistance. Also, stacking up the layers, you can lower the internal resistance, lots of contact. Well, the spiral does too, but the things you can do in the pouch cell to lower the internal resistance. So I don't know if the round lipos, you look at the Sherlock Holmes, it's a decent performing battery, but it's not fundamentally better than the other batteries in its size, the 2700s. So it's not inherently better. It's going to be up to that manufacturer, what cost versus performance decisions that they make. Scott Bogfoot, is that the same reason why the IEC uses different names for regular batteries, like double A's, calling them LR6? And yeah, they're international designators for shape, size, chemistry. Um, IEC even says, you have this number in the front for number in series, and this number in the back for the number of parallel. I think it's Wikipedia's, I think it's called Battery Designators is the page, and they've got a nice list of all the non-rechargeable, rechargeable, nickel metal hydrides and everything, all the standards they use for naming things like double A and D and C. Those are some of the designators. So ISO, I don't know if they have if they're doing it, but IEC does, and who else has designators? I've forgotten. A lot of it's what that country's safety standards and other things refer to. They may have their own, but they may want to stay, an IEC safety standard might only use IEC battery designators for that. You have the DIN norms, and also, it's in the EU. You might have, in order to go from, to buy something in Germany that was made somewhere else in the EU, you might have to go with a different standard. Um, every country is going to have its own internal standards, and TUV and all these other ones. But then also a lot of them refer to maybe UL or CE, which covers the whole EU, the CE standards. And those CE standards might refer to lots of other things that are specific to countries and stuff like that. It gets confusing as hell. I'm glad I'm not selling stuff like that. So Alyssa, we'll stick to 30T instead of looking for a LiPo round cell. Certainly, I mean, look at specs. 30Ts, I can't see any cells beating that, because excuse me, the market just isn't that big for the high current cells. Everyone wants higher capacity. Outside of vaping, everybody wants higher capacity. So I don't see 30Ts being beat. It's really just power tools and electric vacuum cleaners. Do they want a more expensive cell to go to maybe 40 amp continuous instead of 35? It might drift that way. It's just improvements on the 21700s, but we're not going to have, like a 50 amp 21700 coming anytime soon. There's just no market for it. James Potts, do you know if there are any new batteries coming out? There are always new batteries coming out. In terms of what we might be interested in, I haven't seen. Who was I talking to this morning about the Tesla 3 21700, 15 amp rated battery, 5,000 milliampere hours. It's not going to be fundamentally better than if they're becoming available for retail purchase. As excess inventory leaks out, they're not going to be fundamentally better than M50, excuse me, a 50E or 50E2 or an M50, these other high capacity cells or VapCells, good performing 5,000 milliampere hour blue one, which is, I forgot, 15 amp, I think they rated that. I don't remember. That comes out of, I think, a China factory. I don't think that's a rewrap big manufacturer one. So outside of that, I haven't been hearing of any new ones other than the technologies that we hope are coming to market soon, like solid state batteries and some of the other developments that are going on. But that's a revolutionary jump. So it's going to take, I think, a long time before we see it versus the evolutionary steps that took us from Samsung 25Rs to like VTC 5Ds and then the Samsung 30Ts and 40Ts and the performance jumps we can get with 21700s. Frank, Barry, hello. Thank you for joining us. Did I miss anyone's question? Only about half the number of people we had last week, so I think this isn't nearly as interesting a topic for others. It's always interesting to see how many viewers you get for it. And, do I go technical? Do I just talk about dangers of things? What topics? So it's always interesting to see, for me, to look at number of live viewers and certainly the number of views on things. And I thought this would be a very popular one, but I think a lot of people don't want to have to deal with it, or it's more people who've been around for a long time, and so they know about these three different things, and they know what they learned when they started vaping versus what they are being told now. So a little confusion then. So I'm wondering if that might have something to do with it. Scott Bogfoot, can you explain the anodic index? No, I can't actually. To me, it sounds like the electrochemical potential differences between different anode materials. It's really, you've got these electrochemical potentials or, voltages essentially associated with different materials. The difference between them tells you the voltage of the battery, and you get like graphite, which has a very low number, and the stuff that we use for the positive part of that had very high numbers, so you get the very high voltage of a lithium-ion battery. You can go to something like nickel metal hydrides, where there's a very small difference between the positive and negative part of the battery, the electrochemical differences. So you get 1.2 volt battery out of that. But I don't know enough to speak of the anodic index, and I don't get into that part of it. More what I deal with is the application side. Hey, we already have this battery. How does it work? What does it do? What is its safety compared to others? As opposed to, hey, what can we do with different materials and stuff to get to either higher voltage or low voltage? What are the trade-offs and stuff like that versus going to, let's say, lithium ferrous phosphate, lower voltage, but you get some advantages in terms of cycle life and safety. Justin, you have to clickbait him with an exciting title. Yeah, that's true. I thought this one was fairly exciting, but evidently not. I thought today would be a hugely popular interest because it's the basis of so many questions that I get, which is what a lot of these power hours are about. Taking the popular questions, the ones I can receive up to literally dozens of times a day. What's the best battery? Which may have to be a power hour. Well, actually, there's so many close-ups of batteries I'll want to show. I think that'll be a minding your Moz. And turning that into a power hour so people can show up and ask their questions related to it once I do the topic. But the power hours are ways for me to easily, twice a week, explore topics that are of interest, and as we go along, learn what people are interested in and what they aren't interested in. John will watch any video I put out so you can learn something new. Thank you, sir. Tobai, the technical and political aspects of vaping are more interesting for me compared to all the reviews of hyped products. And I think I'll always have a core number of viewers who are interested in, as opposed to purely reviews or entertainment, they'll want more educational type stuff. Stian, you should have lived in the country, so you should have done some stupid safety testing. Agreed. Being here in the middle of Manhattan, I can't do the stuff everybody wants to see, and that's batteries blowing up. But there may be ways to work that out. Sid, good evening, sir. Thank you for joining us. Bernie Sate, you're most welcome. Churros, for you, is the Sky RCM 3000 a good battery charger? It's a pretty decent one. It's got probably the best of the chargers I've tested. I haven't tested the Gear Falcon. What is it? AL88? Something 88. But it was pretty good in capacity, pretty good in internal resistance, like all of them. If you hold the contacts, overall, decent charger. Basically, most of the time, as far as we're concerned, the pictures for batteries are not that useful. Agreed. And I think most people just don't pay attention anymore. I wanted this power hour on record, though, because you still get new vapors who can be confused by them. Craig F., thanks for joining us, though. And actually remembered to turn off the phone today, which, of course, means I'm not getting any phone calls. Jason finds it all interesting, enjoys learning and knowledge. Yeah, I think I was a frustrated teacher in another life, or maybe that makes me a frustrated teacher now. I've always enjoyed teaching and learning, so some of these are a lot of fun. Like I mentioned earlier, it's hard to squeeze in the lunchtime power hours. The Sunday night one's a lot more convenient, but it's not at all convenient for Europe or Asia. So the lunchtime ones are a little better for that. And some of it can be, if there's topics you want for a power hour, send me a PM. Send me well, email. No one has that address. And for the emails, it's just hard. It's better for a PM or something like that, or even here. If there's a power hour topic you like to see addressed. My patrons pick almost all the power hour topics. Sometimes I combine some of the ones they do. They've had a lot of suggestions for power hours, but some of those are better or if I need a lot of close-ups of something or photos, or if I need the whiteboard, I'll make it a Minding Your Moz episode or a Minding Your Mex episode. In Norway, it's 1836. It's interesting because I can read that and think of it as a date. So it's 6:30 over there. Nefarian. Clickbait title, Batteries and Coronavirus, What You Need to Know. That actually may be worth doing. New Wave Dave, 169. This is the most interesting part of my week, unfortunately. Oh, I'm sorry to hear that. I'm really sorry to hear that. We'll try to make this as interesting as possible. Crew, LT, any thoughts on the XTAR VC series chargers? I don't think I've tested any of them. You can check the link below in the description section to my blog at ECF. Go to my charger test link and take a look. I don't remember. They all blur together. I don't believe I've tested the VCs. I've got the PB2Cs here and the 4MCS or the 4MC, or is it just the MCS? But I don't have the VC. Maybe it's the VC4. No, VCs are the older series. No, I don't believe I tested those. That was a long answer for me just going. Bill Richard worked in the electromechanical field, but when I started vaping, I had a lot to learn about lithium batteries. Almost a back to school job. Really, to get the best performance, or in terms of safety, there's a decent amount to learn. It's all easily learned, and you never have to learn it again. It's so many people just like, whoa, no, just tell me the best battery. I go, yeah, but okay, here's it changes depending how you vape. There's a half dozen best batteries, but there's some safety things you got to learn about. And they're like, whoa, 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 just tell me what charger to get. That I'm like, well, what do you want in a charger? Their brains explode. But it's all stuff you only have to do once, and then you never have to deal with it again. But even that, people are just like, whoa, I don't have 5 minutes for this crap. And I'm like, well, okay, use this. And then a year later, they're like, this sucks. Well, yeah, because it wasn't the perfect fit for the way you vape. It's just the 30-second answer, which is all you wanted. I think that was a rant. Pat, thank you for the kind words. XTRM Brazen. Have you ever had a battery go rogue, even having it in a safe environment? I think you're asking. Um, no, no, I've never had a battery go into thermal runaway, unless I wanted it to go into thermal runaway. In my personal opinion, you have to short circuit a battery, or there has to be an internal defect. You've got to bring it, and the reason why you have to short circuit is because you have to bring it to a very high temperature in a tiny spot of the battery, which is easy to do with a short circuit. The outside of the battery can be cool. It only takes a couple seconds or less to bring a battery into runaway because you've got this hot spotting, this concentrated heating that can initiate this runaway reaction. It's runaway because it gets hot, you start this decomposition that's exothermic that sets more of it off, which causes decomposition, which is exothermic, which sets more of it off, and it goes through the battery. I have had two batteries vent way back. This is 5 years ago. Gentle. I didn't even know they vented, but they both vented during testing. I didn't even notice the first one vented. Put the second one in. I didn't notice it until I took it out and I felt slimy liquid. Took a sniff. You're like, whoa, there's that sickly sweet, definitely chemical odor. And I went back to the other one, took a sniff, and also the venting disc just cracked open. Liquid came out. I was running it with 30 amps. I forgot what the rating was, like 20 amps or something. They shouldn't have vented. So that was a surprise, but it happened. And that's been it, other than the ones which I don't do anymore. I used to do that. I used to firebox. I had a ceramic cloth lined 50 caliber ammo can with a hole I put in the top to 4-inch flexible aluminum ductwork that went outside the apartment. And it just, what a nightmare of just, it still stinks no matter what you do. Replace the aluminum cloth, hose out the inside, rinse out the inside of the hose. Still trying to store it. It's just ridiculous. So I don't do any more destructive testing. Um, but yeah, sometimes I'd love to go into the park and just record some of these. Tobias Ripper, are you familiar with the DNA 1A charger module? No, but I think I've seen them on their website available. It's a TI 24090. I've been looking at some of the 240 series. Um, I think it was the 70. I forgot. Uh, I mean, I use TI chips for my design. I like the TI chips. You've got it. You're using it properly, they're perfectly reliable, great chips. Anything from Evolve, and they use Texas Instruments. When I say TI, folks, that's Texas Instruments. They use the Texas Instrument Balancer chip for the DNA 200, and I'm not sure what they use in the other ones. I would suspect they use it for their other chips. So they've got good engineering. They've got good components. I would trust that charger module. Certainly. You want to, not expose it to static. You want to install it properly and use it properly, like anything. Harry, this Schmidt. For anyone asking a question, please put battery space mooch. You don't need the @ symbol. You don't need hashtag. Battery space mooch. That way it shows up with a bright red for me, and I can easily see that you're asking a question. But Harry, I caught yours. What 1860 battery would you suggest for a mech? 20 to 25 amps, 20 S's now. That's it. You're using the best choice for that. If you're below 25 amps, you might get a tiny bit more vaping time with a Molicel P26A or maybe a Sony Murata VTC5D. But once you're hitting about 25 amps and up to 30 amps, the Samsung 20S, which hits harder at any voltage, by the way, it would just be if you wanted maybe a little bit more vaping time. But you've got the best choice. The only thing you can do beyond that is go to 21700 and use like a Molicel P42A at 25 amps, or if you want to get up to 35 amps, the Samsung 30T. Tobias Ripper, would you use it for a round cell package that can charge outside the mod? Think of the Anakin system. So essentially you would create, for lack of a better term, a battery pack. where you'd have a protected cell that would use that charge module. I haven't tested the module, so I can't speak to it. I can only say conceptually, Evolve makes good stuff, and they're using a good chip for the charging. You'd have to do some tests, get, at least 3 of them, and just run them continuously. Um, Tobias, if you PM me on Facebook or somewhere, you can look for a battery simulator. And essentially, you're using a power supply and a resistor to trick the charging module into thinking there's a battery there. And you can set it so essentially the charging module starts charging. But since you've got it hooked up to a power supply and resistor, you can run it 24 hours a day and just run 3 of those modules for a week or something, 24 hours a day. Stop and start so they're heating and cooling, put them inside an enclosure so they get bloody hot like they might in your system, and test it out. See how it works out for you. Conceptually, I think it's a great idea. But, that's the charging module. You still need protection for the cell if you're going to make a protected package. Pat, battery mooch in the front. I find black spots under the wraps of my BTCs. What is it? That is one of the greatest battery mysteries in vaping. We don't know. Now, the wraps are translucent, so we may have those spots under lots of batteries, and we don't know because the wraps are opaque. My thoughts on that is it's oxidized film, or the film for the can drawing process, because these cans are made from discs of stainless steel, and you squeeze that disc hard enough, and it, inside a mold, and you get a can out of it. Amazing video to watch the process when they make. If you watch how they make soda cans or something like that, pop cans. But you've got to lubricate the mold. And I think that what I think it is some of that still left on there, and it gets a little bit warm. It's being used for a while, and it oxidizes and it turns a darker color, and you get these blotches all around. It's either that or e-liquid has gotten under it. If you see it at one end or the other, my guess is e-liquid. If you're seeing it in the middle with no black spot under the wrap connecting it, dark spot connecting to one end and the other, there might be a pinhole in the wrap, and that let body oils or e-liquid in, or it's this lubricant from the drawing process. That's my guess. Certainly, if you feel any kind of roughness or you see rust or corrosion, now you've got an issue there, and maybe that's causing a spot beyond that. But you would feel that if you certainly see any kind of corrosion or rust, then replace the battery. Sid1, are you testing the clutch? You haven't been keeping up with my videos. I've already tested it. The clutch, and I also have a clutch maintenance video. I did the voltage drop testing on the clutch 3 weeks ago, I think. Check my Minding Your Mechs episodes. Carl Horror, thanks for joining us. Ricky Mahoney, is there a reason you recommend P26A and not P28A? Just curious because you have the 8s but haven't tried the 6s. Availability. The P26As are just a lot more available. A lot of what my recommendations are based on is not all good cells. It's just the ones that I can recommend because you can find them, especially in certain countries. What's in stock by the authorized vendors, the global distribution partners, the GDPs, they call them. So in testing, and also another reason is for vaping, anything over about 10 amps, the vast majority of the uses, the applications for the P28A is a power cell, higher power levels, 10 amps, 30 watts and up. It performs the same as the P26. You're really only seeing a benefit if you're down under 15 watts or 5 amps or so. So I just don't recommend it because it's not as available. It doesn't mean it's a cell that I don't recommend. Doesn't mean I don't recommend it. It just means I haven't put it on the recommended list because it's already too long and makes people's heads explode. They want to open up the recommended list and see one battery for each size. So it's a compromise between keeping people's heads from exploding with too much information and listing all the good cells, which would be a huge table. Beto Red, what's up, Mr. Mooch? What's up? Greetings again from Venezuela. Welcome. My brain locked for a second there. Bill Richard, far easier to get the 26s. Now, you may get 28s popping up once in a while, but you don't have to rush to them and go 200 more milliampere hours. Milliampere hours are only a moderate indicator of running time. It's the watt hours under load that's important, but that really makes people's heads explode. So just remember, if you're within 500 milliampere hours, that doesn't mean you've got a longer running battery. A 3000 milliampere hour battery at 25 amps will not run as long as a good 2500 milliampere hour battery will, because the 3000 milliampere hour batteries, higher capacity means higher internal resistance, typically, because you don't have as much room for metal. You're packing in more battery goop to get the capacity. You got to take out metal to make room inside the cell, which means you have a quote lower performance cell. 3000 milliampere hour, you're probably at 15 amp rating. 2500 milliampere hour, now you're at a 25 amp rating. Lower internal resistance, higher efficiency. It's going to run better at high current levels. A 2500 milliampere hour battery can run longer than a 3000 milliampere hour battery at high power levels. So yes, capacity is good to look at for really rough guesses that maybe narrow things down a bit, but it's really that internal resistance, the efficiency, namely how many watt hours of energy can this thing battery actually give you. And that's why I've added watt hours and puff counts. By the way, all my ratings graphics for all the batteries I test now give you puff counts, which is essentially a more relatable way to give watt hour numbers. Nefarian, you should make a list of the cells that are safe and just leave it blank to make a point. That's great. Or do a power hour on what are the safe batteries. And I just gone on and go, hey, thank you for joining us. Here's what I'm vaping. And what are the safe batteries? None. Thanks for joining us. Bye. But that just pisses people off. Justin, my daughter's listening and asked if anyone's head is really exploding. Justin's daughter, no one's head is really exploding. Um, that's my way of picturing all the activity going on in their heads and all their confusion. When I say someone's head are exploding, it's think of Bugs Bunny or some of those great physical old cartoons where if a lot of stuff is so much stuff is going inside their heads that it just goes boom and you get a big puff of smoke going up out of their head. Sometimes you might see like curls of smoke coming out of their ears, meaning their brains are working so hard that you can think of, oh, everything's just blowing up inside their brains. So for me, heads exploding just means they're getting really confused and they really don't know what's going on and they're not understanding things. And that's what happens if someone asks you what's the best of something and you show them a list of 10, then like, what? No, I want one. Oh, Justin, I'm sorry to hear she's sick. Well, Justin's daughter, I hope you're feeling better soon. And I hope you can find a couple of fun things to do, maybe sort of. You're not in school, you don't get to hang out with your friends, but hopefully you get better soon. Tobias Ripper, our minds are going to thermal runaway. There's a way to describe it. Tobai, when I got my 25 hours, which are 2500 milliampere hour for everybody, I was surprised that with my style of vaping, they were running nearly as long as my 30 Qs. Yeah, if you're not running, I think the power level, somewhere around 50 watts per battery, they're about equal. And then if you're over 50, 55, the high performance 25 amp batteries will actually run longer. And we got a few more minutes here. Oh, and today's I'm doing that uh, pineapple peach, just something light today. Homemade, friend homemade. I don't even know the recipe. I don't ask him because he wouldn't tell me. He just supplies me with a pile of it, and I go through it, and when it's empty, you clean it out, I hand it back to him, and he fills it back up again. Catching up, I think most of the questions we have caught up on. Aziz, keep up the good work. Thanks a million for answering a few of my questions before. A very fast reply. I'm glad I could help. Yeah, I get about 150, 200 questions a day, unless I post something really popular or really controversial, which I don't do a lot, and then it can be like literally 300 to 400 questions every day. It's a big part of what I'm doing, and I think a lot of my patrons, look toward me to do like the videos and tests and stuff like that. But so much it's behind the scenes, talking with manufacturers, with vendors, answering questions and things like that. That's the majority of what I do. Stan, so he is a real juice dealer. That is true. Yes, he's got the good juice. Mike Berg, you're welcome, sir. Tobai, pineapple peach, and I don't think it's just pineapple peach. There's a creamy note to it, but I don't like a lot of cream. But he would know that. And also, I'd swear there's some citrus going on in there too. Um, John Wisser, your dog's head just went into thermal runaway. Hmm, that's not good. Clean it up carefully. It's toxic. But was this whistling again? Whoever told me to raise the coils, by the way, the whistling's gone. Thank you. I just the coils had gotten pushed down, brought it back up. The whistling's gone. Michelle, thank you for joining us. Thank you for saying hello. Hugs back. New Wave Dave, 169. Little off topic, but a dual or more parallel. Off topic's fine. Any topic's fine. Does not have to be a battery topic. It can be mechs or regulated mods or whatever. We're just here to chat. The only time we're quote on topic is my blathering at the beginning, and then whatever we want to talk about. But a dual or more parallel configuration shares the load, but doesn't increase the amperage of the batteries. True and false. You phrased it interestingly. Each battery's amp rating doesn't change, but the current rating of parallel batteries does increase because each battery can contribute current now. Think of fire hoses or water hose. You're filling a swimming pool with one water hose. Well, if you bring in a second water hose, both hoses still have a maximum amount of water that they can provide. The water rating, there's a current rating equivalent for each hose, but now your pool's filling twice as fast. 3 hoses, it's filling 3 times as fast. So each hose contributes water. Each battery in parallel contributes water. The series equivalent is if I took one hose and hooked it up in line with another hose and hooked it up in line with another hose, I still only have one hose worth of water coming out. The current rating doesn't change. Parallel it does, but it's not triple. 3 batteries in parallel does not give you 3 times, 320 amp batteries does not mean you have a 60 amp battery pack, for lack of better words, or capability there. Because the current sharing between parallel batteries isn't equal. Every battery is different. The wiring may be slightly different contact pressure or something like that. So if you've got 3 20 amp batteries in parallel, maybe call it a 50 amp battery or something like that. Just so in case one of them's providing 25 amps and the other one's 15 amps, you're not running it so hard that you're bumping into this battery's rating. John McLaughlin, battery mooch at the front, but I caught it. Nick, thank you, sir. Yes, that was you. Appreciate the tip. Are you, John McLaughlin asks, did I get that pronunciation right? Are you going to be able to test the removable LiPo packs that come with a new Ultroner pod mod, as it looks like there's going to be more for other kits in the near future? I didn't know it had a removable LiPo. Pouch LiPo, like you see the alumini looking pouch with little, like you have a drone or an RC car or something like that. Let me write that down. That sounds like an interesting thing because they've done it once. Odds are there's going to be more than one. The Ultroner pod. Removable LiPo. Wow, I'm writing at like 8 times speed. I can so tell when I have coffee, the first coffee of the day. The later coffees don't seem to have an effect, but I'm buzzing right now, and it's the weirdest thing. It's only that first coffee. And I do little 3-4 ounce cups because they can have a big effect. That's actually really interesting. Joe, thank you for telling me that. I'll take a look at that, look at the reviews, and I'll get one. And the pack itself, maybe just look at, I'm sure it meets its ratings, but things like connectors and is it getting banged around if the pod, because a lot of people drop their pods or they don't think, oh, it's delicate. You have a big box mod, people think don't drop it, because the lipo pack inside. But for the pods, it'll be interesting to test. Sheehan, you should make a picture booklet for the vape shops about battery safety for the dyslexics like me. I like the word. I'm sure it's not pronounced dyslexics. Dyslexics. Dyslectics. Hmm. I'm not too bright, am I? But I'll be the first to admit it. That was brilliant, sir. Well played. Um, I'm thinking there was a Northern European word there that looked like dyslectic or something, and that was the Norwegian spelling. I There's a lot of work and so much what they want. Almost all the shops who are going to use anything already have something. Um, I don't know if it'd be worth it for me to do anything more, but I think it's an interesting suggestion. Nobody vapes. It may be a dumb question, but why are most regulated mods in series? That's a brilliant question and not in parallel. Brilliant question. And there's a really good reason for it. The simpler you've got a regulator circuit board in these mods, and they take the battery power and convert it into something. They take your request via the screen and the buttons for a certain power level, certain wattage, and they send that to the coils. No matter what the resistance is, it tries to give you that power for the coil. There's a limited range. Now, the circuit to take a higher voltage and bring it down to a lower voltage is simpler than the circuit to bring a lower voltage and convert it to a higher one. Higher to lower is called stepping down or bucking the voltage. Going from lower to higher, that's boosting the voltage or stepping up. It's also more efficient to bring a higher voltage down. So if you start with series batteries and you've got 8.4 volts to start, maybe you drop down to 6.4 volts before you stop. Now, anything below 6.4 volts, we can send to the coils. Now, there's a voltage drop inside the regulator, so maybe it's 5.5 volts. So that regulator circuit now can have a simple circuit with high efficiency from 0 to 5.5 volts. That covers a lot of coil resistances and power settings. If I've got batteries in parallel, I'm at 4.2 volts, maybe that drops down to 3.7. Once I get through the regulator, I'm at about 3.2. So now if I need more, I can't deliver anything more than 3.2 volts to the coils unless I boost the voltage up. If the coils need 5 volts to get the requested power level for that resistance, I got to boost the 5 volts. That's a more complex circuit, multiple stages, lower efficiency, generates more heat. It costs more because you have more components. So parallel doesn't work as well. And if you have to have 2 batteries for parallel and 2 batteries for series, let's put them in series. It doesn't matter in terms of the amount of power because batteries in series and batteries in parallel doesn't matter for regulated mod. It's the wattage per battery, and the wattage per battery is the same. 2 batteries, 100 watts, 50 watts per battery if they're in series. Same thing in parallel. So batteries in series give us a less expensive circuit that runs cooler and gives us more options to support different coils resistances at different power levels. That was a really good question. I hope the answer made sense. Scrolling back up here. XTRM, extreme. Ha! I got it. Huh. I feel so proud of myself, but I hadn't gotten in for an hour. Extreme brazen. Do you get other people other than vapors for battery info for other stuff? Yeah, the DIY Powerwall community uses some of my stuff. The flashlight community uses some of my stuff. A little bit for the RC crowd, drones and stuff. Some drones use 18650s, but they primarily use LiPos. Bill Richard, the Ultronopod looks like it uses similar packs to mobile phones. Oh, so it's protected, which I would hope to see. That you pull it off and like in a mobile phone pack, you've got a little protection circuit board, thin little tiny thing that they put up against one end of the LiPo pack. Tobias Ripper, y'all remember that in a regulated mod, the chip uses the voltage from cells in series to make amps. So in that case, you do have more amps than the batteries in series. Correct, Battery Mooch? Well, 100 watts for 2 batteries in parallel is the same current from each battery than as 100 watts for 2 batteries in series in a regulated mod, because each battery is still handling 50 watts. 2 batteries in series delivering 100 watts, 50 watts per battery. 2 batteries in parallel at 100 watts, 50 watts per battery. So the current's the same. And regulated mods are very different. Now, once you go to parallel, excuse me, once you go to mechanical mods, it's very different. Then you back to regular Ohm's law, 2 batteries in parallel, you double the capacity, double the current, equivalent current rating. 2 batteries in series, you double the voltage, but the current rating stays the same and the capacity stays the same. Dave Blackmon, you're a class act and a credit to the community. Thank you. Those are very kind words. I appreciate that. Moto Vapor, has anyone asked about my hat yet? No, nobody ever has asked about my hat. It's just a normal flat brim hat. Yes, all the time. I think every power hour and regularly comments to my videos. Let's see, I had a short version. I spent summers, several summers in Montana on a ranch. It was in the relatives in the family, and some of the ranch hands had the extreme beak curve. I liked the look. When I started wearing hats, that I don't know, some 20 years after that, I just said, yeah, that's what I want to do. I don't like totally flat brim. It's just not a style for me. And so I like this, and it takes a long time to get it bent this way, and some of them crack easily. But this hat, after about 10 years, is just starting to break in. Justin, yes, there we go. Yeah, I think 10 years I've had it. John Whistler, if you have a mod that boosts the voltage for a set wattage, does it draw more current from the battery? Well, the boost converter is going to be the boost regulator is going to be completely separately. If it has to boost the voltage up, it will. You just look at, if you're taking, let's say the battery's at 6 volts. No, let's not. Okay, no, because you've got parallel batteries. Let's say the battery's at 3 volts. Just assume that. And you need 4 volts to your coils. You look at the power level. It will draw, how to explain this? In order to boost the voltage, yes, it will have to draw more current. If you've got batteries at 6 volts and batteries at 3 volts, and you need 100 watts, if it has to take 3 volts and boost it up to 4, it will have to draw a lot more current to make that 100 watts than batteries sitting at 6 volts. So to answer your question, yes, but even in a regulator that just steps voltage down, if you have batteries at 6 volts, to make 100 watts, you need less current than batteries at 5 volts. Let's go to 5 and 4 volts because it's easy. 100 watts at 5 volts, you've got 20 amps you need from the batteries. 100 watts from batteries sitting at 4 volts, I now need 25 amps from the batteries to make 100 watts. But both of those could still be stepped down to 3 volts at the coils. So just kind of ignore the coils and stepping up or stepping down. Think about what you need from the battery using Watt's law, wattage equals voltage times current, to make the wattage. Lower the voltage of the battery, the more current you need from it. So batteries actually accelerate how they voltage drop. Batteries fully charged, you need less current. As the battery voltage goes down, you need more and more current from the battery to make the wattage, but the battery is getting more and more empty, which means it's lowering its voltage quicker, which means you need more current from it. So batteries really drop fast, which is one reason why we get a lot more weak battery and low battery alerts from a regulated mod if the battery isn't really set up as a high performance battery for the way you vape, because you get this accelerating draining of the battery as the regulator circuit pulls more and more current from the battery as the voltage drops. It kind of accentuates lack of performance. Lower performance battery will just look a lot worse in a regulated mod than someone in a mech would. Because in a mech, as the battery voltage drops, you're actually drawing less current from the battery because you have a fixed resistance there. And Ohm's law says lower voltage gives you lower current. So in a mech, you're actually drawing less and less, and the battery can last quote a lot longer. Performance, so you get lower performance, lower battery voltage. But the regulated mod really stresses the battery a lot harder. Nick McMinn, are you going to catch Mike Vape's show that's on his Mike Life channel in a few moments? If so, see you there. Well, if he's going Mike Life, then why don't we close off now? And Nick, is he already on, or is he coming on soon? Sheehan says he bends his too, but not that much. Blocking the lights on the side. Agreed. Um, in 4 minutes. Okay. Well, let's take let's take Scott Bogfoot's statement as the last one. Thank you, sir, for letting me know. I'll have to check when he's on because it's a power hour. We're just hanging out a little bit, but if someone else is coming on, I'll get out of the way here. Scott Bogfoot says it's a three-corner hat turned upside down with the two back corners cut off. You know what? You're right. I've watched too many. I've seen Master and Commander too many times. Wait, does he wear a three? Or do they only wear the 2-point hats? I've forgotten. Anyway, getting into serious history here. Zifix, IT, got a sleep monitor device last night. The nurse puts it in a battery. Imagine, as is told her, that 18650 isn't made for use outside a battery pack, and I slept with an 18650 on her chest. Well, let me tell you, if you went off, you would know. At a certain point, we've got to trust these devices. Well, we do for vaping all the time, putting them up to our faces. All right, we're going to say goodbye. Check out Mike Life, Mike Vape's other channel. I'm going to check it out also while I'm making lunch and see what he's got for today. Everyone, thank you for joining me. Thank you for the great questions. Certainly, any ideas for topics that you'd like to see, because that's why I'm here. Not just for me to yap, but to answer questions you have. PM me, email me, get it to me some way. And hope everyone has an awesome day. Thanks again.